It is 12:20 in the morning, and I have a class at 8 a.m. But am I going to stay up late and make my 2.0 NFL mock draft because Russell Wilson just signed with the Giants? Yes, of course I am, obviously. I already had a video prepared and ready, but now that Russell Wilson signed, I'm gonna redo it just because there's new information out. It was actually a really good video. I was in the lab, I was locked in. I had just come out of the process of making the previous day, and now, I'm not really fresh to everything, but I have all my picks here. Should be ready to go. None of the picks really changed. Just thought I'd bring out this new information about Russell Wilson now being a New York Giant and Jameis Winston being them. Should have a quarterback competition there. I don't expect New York to address quarterback at least in the first round, especially as they also have Tommy DeVito. So it's NFL mock draft season. This is 2.0, 3.0, and the official one I'll be entering in the 3 Gen NFL mock draft challenge will be later on in the month. A little bit over a month left until the actual draft comes out, but the combine's already happened. A bunch of stuff. We're just waiting on rumors to address for the next month as they come in and where Aaron Rodgers may end up going, but we'll have to see what happens there. All right. Enough with that. Let's get this mock draft taken care of so I can go to bed and you can figure out what I have going on here. All right. Number one, Tennessee Titans. Abdul Carter, he thinks he's the number one overall pick. I hate to break it to you, but he won't be. The Titans just need to address quarterback more than they do Abdul Carter. I've seen Will Levis in trade conversations. Cameron Ward is the most NFL draft ready here. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Sanders, if Deion Sanders may have got himself into the Tennessee organization and just talked his way up to getting his son number one overall. Wouldn't be surprised. I would be shocked if Travis Hunter went here. Out of the top three between Ward, Carter, I mean, even Sanders, let's throw him to the mix. It could be any one of those top four guys, but I have it being Cameron Ward, quarterback out of Miami. And he's not the only quarterback to be taken here in the first round. I have a few more. We'll get to that later. As number two, I'm going to be going quarterback. Quarterback. I don't see the Browns now. They don't have any veteran quarterback options to the left. They have to get Deshaun. He's still healing from that Achilles. I just don't see how they wouldn't take Sanders on the board here. I know he wanted to go to New York. He was throwing around with Malik Neighbors, but I think Malik Neighbors is going to be very happy with the guy that New York's about to draft. Once Sanders goes to the Cleveland Browns, he can develop under Pickett or even win the quarterback competition. It might not be what Cleveland Browns want. Hopefully for them, Sanders is NFL ready. We just don't know yet how he's going to perform. The Big 12, he had his ups and downs. Obviously, didn't make the playoffs. Had a rough go at it, especially with some great playmakers around him. But we'll have to see how he can perform with guys like Jerry Judy there in Cleveland and guys like Nick Chubb, great offensive line, and a great defense. They're very much in win now mode. They just needed a quarterback to help them really emphasize that. And now we got the New York Giants here, and who think they're in win now mode too, going out and getting Wilson. I don't know if they're trying to tank and get a first and get Archie Manning next season. I don't know what they're really trying to accomplish here. But they really wanted Rodgers. Rodgers took too long, probably committed to the Steelers. And the Giants just went out and got Wilson and Jameis Winston. I don't see their vision here, but they're probably just going to take best player available, and that's going to be Travis Hunter, cornerback out of Colorado. He'll probably play receiver for the Giants, depending on what they need more. I don't see. I mean, the Giants went out and they addressed the secondary, right? But this is what I use to really check how teams did it in free agency and help. It really helped me. How I make these NFL mock drafts is um, I'm not great on player knowledge, especially scouting wise, players in the draft, but I do see I try to envision what NFL GMs view. They look at team needs, they look at what they've signed, and then they try to envision what player can fit in trying to build. And SGA, good for him. But anyway, So I look at this, I look at tons of other NFL mock draft to see what the consensus pick is, and I kind of blend all those together to try to make one ultimate decision. So if we look at the New York Giants, what they've really done here in free agency, they really addressed the secondary. Here's Russell Wilson now. He just got added to it. They got Paulson Adebo. Pretty big contract for him, but he was a great corner out of the Saints. He just got had an awful injury that ended his pretty good season for the Saints last season. Javon Holland, big time paycheck for him. This is their Xavier McKinney replacement. Just got it a season later. Pretty good contract for them. And then just some other depth guys. Chris Board, decent contract for him. Um, Special teams guy James Hudson, right tackle. He's hopefully he can uh have some competition with Evan Neal, put some more pressure on him. Got Chauncey Goldston for a okay price, so put him next to Kayvon Thibodeaux, replace Aziz Ojulari. Darius Slayton, that's a pretty big contract for him, but I don't see how that would force Travis Hunter to not play receiver. So I have them taking Travis Hunter, and he'll probably play receiver. He'll probably have himself a little bit won it, but that's what the pick here. And then of course the Patriots, they get lucky. They get the best player, maybe in this draft, which is Abdul Carter. And now they have Keon White, Harold Landry, and Abdul Carter in their front seven, and Milton Williams in the interior defensive line. Um, Mike Vrabel's a head coach that just really loves the trenches, as he was a guy who was really passionate about it. And he's just the best player on the board. I don't see how the Patriots would go any other about it. They just got big time Stephon Diggs. That's also why I wanted to redo that. Some mock drafts had them taking McMillan. I still had them taking Carter, but I just wanted to throw that out there. If we look at what the Patriots have really done in free agency, they spent. People say, they had the best free agency. I don't really think they did. Just because you spent the most doesn't mean you did the best, and that's what people think they did. Like Morgan Moses on a 3-year deal. That's not what you want from a franchise right tackle from a guy who could barely stay on teams. Garrett Bradbury, decent center, good contract for him. Um, that starter money, that's decent, great contract for him. Chassian, give him a chance. He will be a depth guy though. Marcus Epps, okay safety. Landry, it's a pretty big contract for Landry. Only 26 million, I guess. Guaranteed. Davis, that's a huge contract for him, especially an aging corner like that with an injury history. 3 years, 54 million. That's not ideal. That's not really what you want to see out of your best corner. Hopefully, you're just hoping he could be a mentor for Christian Gonzalez, but ultimately, not okay free agency, not the best. Matt Collins, obviously, he's going to be their number two, number three, depending on what they also do in the draft. And Stephon Diggs is going to be their number one, with maybe an emergence from one of their younger receivers they have at in their team. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and if you saw what they did in free agency, they addressed everything except the interior of that defensive line, and it just they got Patrick McCurry, the guard from Baltimore. They needed to address the offensive line. They went out and did that. Robert Hainsey and McCurry dressed they just dressed the interior defense. They addressed what they needed. Let's just say that. One of my favorite contracts though, De'Ami Brown, 1 year deal to prove it. They needed a number three. They have Brian Thomas. They have Gabe Davis number two. And De'Ami Brown at the number three. I love that pickup for the Jaguars. I think he can be so good for them. Really loved what he was doing that last season for the Commanders. He was cooking the Lions in that last playoff game. And even Eric Murray addressed the secondary there with Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray. I love that pickup. Nice little contract for him. Only 12 million guaranteed for 3 years for your starting free safety. That is a good contract. That's averaging 4 million a year for your starting free safety. That is a steal. And then Jordan Lewis, 20 million for your starting corner. That's pretty good. These are overall great contracts for the Jaguars. I really love what they did. Look at what they Evan Ingram, aging end who was getting injured for you. It's okay. You can not really what you need. Backup quarterback Mac Jones. It's okay. Uh, lose Luke Farrell, who got a big contract for some reason from the 49ers. Okay, 3 year. He was never going to get that with the Jags. 3 years. You don't think Ronald Darby, aging corner, they replaced him. Just not big losses, and they replaced him with great signings. Obviously, I was supposed to make an NFL free agency grading, but I have not had time to come around to do that. Anyway, enough talking about their free agency. I think the pick here is going to be Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan, to address the interior defensive line. They've been trying to address it for years. They've drafted many interior defensive linemen, especially defensive tackle over the past few rounds, especially in the first round. But now they finally get their go-to guy, to Mason Graham. You can play him in a 3-4, have him at one of the edges, or you can have him in the 4-3 at one of those interior defensive tackles. They classify him as defensive tackle. He can play either. You probably, ideally in the NFL, probably want him to play defensive tackle. He's gonna have to get better in stuffing the run, but overall, I think this is what the Jacksonville Jaguars really need. Next for the Raiders, in my previous mock draft, I had McMillan, but his stock's been kind of falling. And with the Raiders not really addressing this position all that much, I mean, they kind of did, but it's not exactly what you want long term. If you look at, where is it? LA Raiders, there we go. Well, they got Jeremy Chin from the Commanders, dress the secondary. Okay, you lose Nate Hobbs, but you get Lonnie Johnson, Jeremy Chin. It's okay. Alex Kappa from the Bengals. They kind of pretty much traded Nate Hobbs for Eric Stokes for cheaper. Eric Stokes has potential, former first round guy, and then you get Raheem Mostert. That's really probably not what you want long term at running back. And with Pete Carroll, I was thinking about it. Would he want a big time receiver, which he doesn't ever do? He gets receivers in the second, third round. Or would you want a big time running back like he used to have in Marshawn Lynch? And that's what I think they're going to target here. Get a big time receiver, not receiver, running back for that offense. It's late at night, like I said. Running back Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State, goes at number 6. And all right, next we got number 7. The New York Jets give Justin Fields a weapon to toss the ball to. Says they need the offensive line. I don't think so. They just addressed it last season. Obviously, that doesn't mean they can't go after offensive line again, like I'm going to have later on. Offensive tackle is actually the position I have drafted the most here in this NFL mock draft. I have 6 offensive linemen taken. Most of them being offensive tackles, only one traditional guard, but a lot of them could be moved to guard if they wanted to be. Unless you combine edge with a linebacker, which I have 7 taken in this draft, then offensive line is the most drafted position in this draft coming up. But that's not what I have here for the Jets, actually. I have them going absolute stud out of Penn State, Tyler Warren, tight end. Gives Justin Fields a big time weapon. We look at what they do in free agency. I probably won't do this for every team for time's sake, but it just helps me justify the picks I do here for each team. We look at what they've done in free agency. Get Justin Fields, Brand Stevens, big time contract for him. Not really what you want to replace DJ Reed, but I guess it's okay. 22 guaranteed. Andre Cisco, that's a good contract for him. They really adjust the secondary there. Andre Cisco, that's a good contract for him. 1 year, $10 million prove it deal. Get Josh Myers, center, adjust the interior offensive line. Ohio State guy to reunite with Justin Fields. Really good contract for a starting center there, and $2 million. We'll see if he starts, but he probably should. Or probably will. Lose Devontae Adams, it's okay. They have Garrett Wilson. He'll be okay. And then yeah, they need another big time weapon with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and now Justin Fields gets himself a big time tight end. and because they lost the tight end Tyler Conklin, so they need a guy there, and so they bring in Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. These first five here are honestly the easiest picks here. I think these are an absolute lock. I mean, I say this for every NFL mock draft, and sometimes it's true, sometimes it's false. I've been doing this for the past, I want to say, 4 years now. I've done mock drafts for a long. I mean, for most people, 4 years is not a long time, but when you're 19, 4 years is a long time. Anyway, the Carolina Panthers at number 8 need a big time receiver. And with McMillan falling down this board, I think Panthers fans would be ecstatic to see a guy like McMillan fall all the way to them. Big time receiver out of Arizona. They say he's got character issues. I think Bryce Hall could really help him out there in Carolina. Xavier Legette, fun character. Him opposite next to him and Adam Thielen. Those are three big time guys there in Carolina, and that's gonna be hard to guard for some secondaries in the NFL. Um, this obviously softens the load of an Adam Thielen who's getting very much old in age, as most people know. If we look at what the Carolina Panthers did, they didn't really address receiver. Not even really one here. David Moore they already had. It's not that great. Trevor Moring replaced Jeremy Chin from a few years ago. Pretty big contract for him, honestly. And Wharton and Bobby Brown addressed the trenches there in defensive tackles. I mean, a lot of these guys. So I mean, they really wanted to address the defensive tackle. These are big contracts for their defensive tackle now, and they have Derek Brown. Wow, and some big time contracts for some pretty average guys, but it's all right. See what they relinquished. Lost Xavier Woods. They replaced him. Lonnie Jones, not Lonnie Johnson. They just paid J.C. Horn. Not a big loss there. Miles Sanders never did anything for you. No, not really any big losses, but anyway, they take in Taro Tuluren McMillan, receiver out of Arizona, to finish up their receiving core. Next, we have the Saints at number 9. And this is where we have our first offensive lineman off the board. We have Will Campbell, the hometown guy out of Louisiana State, goes to Louisiana, New Orleans Saints. Yeah, they could go a whole bunch of options, as you see. If you want to do the mock draft challenge, it tells you team needs, so it really helps you out. Gentry's off the board here, so they wouldn't go running back. Receiver, they wouldn't reach for one. Offensive lineman is really their number one need. Guard specifically. Will Campbell can play it, but I feel like they'd move one of their offensive tackles there. Um, what's his name? Their offensive tackle they've had um for the past few seasons hasn't been it to play right tackle. I think it's Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning's not been really what the Saints been looking there at right tackle. He can move to guard if you want, or he can be a rotational guy. Will Campbell's going to be the pick there. And in the NFL, offensive tackle is just so valued. Even if you have an offensive tackle there, that doesn't mean you won't already take an offensive tackle. We look at what the Bengals did last season. They got two guys there at offensive tackles, and they still drafted Amarius Mims, who played a lot because of injuries. Just because you have two starting quality offensive tackles doesn't mean you won't draft one. So I think that's what the Saints do there. Get the best player off the board, in my opinion, at Will Campbell, who falls to number 9. And the Bears now. They're looking offensive line too. And, the consensus has been Will Campbell, but if he's off the board here, what are the Bears going to do? And that's going to take the second, arguably maybe the first best offensive lineman in this draft, and Kelvin Banks Jr. He can replace Braxton Jones or Darnell Wright. Not probably Darnell Wright. He hasn't really been the best there. Or with the injuries with offensive guard with Joe Thuney getting up there in age and Jonah Jackson, previous injuries last year with the Rams. They want a guy with flexibility, and Kelvin Banks can play either position. So this gives them a big time guy who can play either position for you, which is just what the Bears need. And really give Caleb Williams some extra protection there in Chicago, and make sure guys like Aiden Hutchinson won't be getting to him, and that Caleb Williams feels untouchable. That's going to be the pick there, offensive tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Bears. Next, this guy fell pretty hard. In my previous mock draft, actually, I had him going as high as 5. Now he falls all the way to 11. In some mock drafts, he falls to 13, falls to 20, 21. Like he falls. But I have him two at 11. 49ers lost a lot in free agency. Don't get me wrong. I don't think as many people say they are. I don't think they're huge losses. Um, like the receiving core, they're like, oh no, they lost I don't even know. It's Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. They might trade away, but that's okay. They still have Ricky Pearsall and Demarcus Robinson, which they have signed. I think that's still and Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, Robinson, and Ricky Pearsall. I think that's a solid receiving core for any NFL offense. Get Trey Brown, cheap corner to adjust the secondary. That's a great contract for Richie Grant. Cheap deal from the Falcons to replace Holafongo, which you were never going to pay that much anyway for a injury-prone safety. Demarcus Robinson, that's a good deal for him. If you look at what they lost, Aaron Banks, that stings. Jadarius Ward, that stings. These are not huge losses. This won't make or break you. These are not like, oh, this it made you from a Super Bowl contender to a you're not even gonna make the playoffs now. No, they're still a playoff contender. They lose Elijah Mitchell, not a huge deal. Still have Christian McCaffrey and Isaac Garamelo. They traded Jordan Mason, not a big deal. They have depth there at the running back position. They could draft another, lose Isaac Dome. It's okay. He was a depth guy. Leonard Floyd, they were trying to cut to sign Joey Bosa. Obviously, he chose the Dolphins, so they could take edge here. It's possible. I don't know if they go first round. Lose Dre Greenlaw, linebacker. That stings. Robert Saleh wanted him back, but he's injury prone. They like what they have there at the linebacker position. They still have Fred Warner at defensive end. They have Nick Bosa, so they have the best linebacker in the league, best defensive end in the league. The 49ers should be fine. They cut Javon Hargrave. Jalen Moore was a rotational tackle. He honestly shouldn't be making this type of money. 21 guaranteed for the Chiefs. I mean, that's a big time money for a guy who could barely start on the 49ers offensive line. But, you know, and the 49ers could take off the tackle here too, with Armand Membu still on the board here and Josh Simmons. But I'm going to have the pick be corner Will Johnson out of Michigan. Big time replacement for Darius Ward. Need a corner. And they just take best player available in this scenario. And funny enough, this is actually the last corner I have. I have safeties later, but this is the last corner I have going in the first round. I think corners fall. There isn't many. I mean, the possibilities of maybe the Steelers take a corner or the Bills. Other than that, I don't think corner is huge. It's not very a loaded corner class. Next, the Cowboys. The Cowboys probably could have gone Ashton Jeanty. Really, what they need, if anything. But from what they've shown me and what they've done in free agency, I don't really think they're going to address the running back position. We look at Dallas Cowboys, what they signed. They got Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. That tells me they don't think they need running back, even though they do. Javonte Williams is probably going to end up being their starter. Miles Sanders is going to be their backup. With Vaughn being the third string. These are just some okay contract. They got Robert Jones to replace on a decent contract to replace someone. I forgot who it was. Chuma Duga, not a bad loss. Rico Dowdle's gone away. He was not the starting running back you need. Jordan Lewis, that stings. D-Law, that stings, but they're trying to clear up some cap space for Micah Parsons. They replaced him, Solomon Thomas and Dante Fowler. They have a rotation there between those two guys across from Micah Parsons. And for cheaper amount of money too. Decent, and Peyton Turner can be in there as well. Some okay contracts we got here for the Cowboys. But I have them going what they really need. So I think they're still going to take offense, I actually think they're going to reach here for Matthew Golden, receiver out of Texas. Keep the Texas guy in Texas. They could trade back here to go out and get him. It is a possibility, but I think they stay true to their pick and they take a big time receiver next to CeeDee Lamb, as they don't really have anyone next to him now, with Brandon Cooks still being a free agent. And Stephon Diggs now signing with the Patriots. The Cowboys need someone next to him. I Tolbert, I don't really think is the option. He's an okay receiver, not really someone you want as your receiver duo. I think Golden and CeeDee Lamb would bring a pretty good duo there in Dallas. Next, we have the Miami Dolphins at number 13. And they're going to take the best player available. He can play across from Terran Armstead, and that's, of course, being Armand Membu, big time Boston tackle out of Missouri. He's definitely a traditional tackle. I would have him play tackle. He can play for Armstead if he gets injured, or he can play at the right tackle position, depending on what you really want to go there for the Miami Dolphins. I do look at depth charts, but obviously I haven't looked at them in like a week or so because I'm just going off the picks I had from the last time. Like I said, I was in the lab, so I really knew what teams were looking from the depth charts right now. It's 12:45 at night, and I'm tired. So, but if we look at what the Miami Dolphins have done in free agency, you can see they got James Daniels to replace. They replaced Robert Jones, who went to Dallas for very cheap. James Daniels is younger and better. They got Ifatu Melifonwu. Says he's a corner. He's more of a safety. He'll probably be a rotational guy with Ashton Davis. Obviously, good contract for Melifonwu. He can really be a great starting quality safety if you want him to be. He had an off 2024 with injuries, but if you can get him to be into his 2023 form, he can be a great guy for you there. Just some depth offensive line guys. Larry Barone, that shouldn't stop them from taking a tackle. I know they got Jackson Carman back. Shouldn't stop them from getting a tackle. Got Madison to replace Mostert, a younger version. You know, they basically trade running backs here in free agency, funny enough. That's what happens with some teams. Get Artie Burns, corner, just the cornerback position there. Not a ton of big moves, a bunch of cheaper guys. Um, yeah, getting two tackles is a little scary for what I have them going for, but Membu is way time better than Jackson Carman. And he'll definitely be a starter over him. Nick Westbrook-Akine, he's definitely what you need, especially in the red zone. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill is not a big time target for them. They're good receivers, but they're not someone you can just throw the ball up to really in the red zone. To be honest, and Nick Westbrook-Akine is. He's not to the quality of receiver to Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. If the NFL were to have a restart and you have the option of taking Westbrook-Akine or Jalen Waddle, you're taking Waddle 100% of the time. But if you need a guy in the red zone, you're probably going to take Nick Westbrook-Akine. I don't know why he doesn't have Akine here. I don't know if he changed his last name or that's just what they show. It doesn't really matter, but ultimately they're going to take offensive tackle. The Colts. I've seen a lot of mock drafts being Tyler Warren, but as of recently, a lot have him now agreeing with me that he's going to the New York Jets. I was actually the first one to say that he'd be mocked to the Jets in my first NFL mock draft, and now more are starting to follow along. And now the Colts, they take the second best off tight end, and they need a guy is going to be great in the run game. Is coming out of a college that really loved the run game, was run heavy. The Colts have Jonathan Taylor, Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. But he also gets them a great pass catcher too for whatever quarterback they rock with, whether that's Anthony Richardson, probably should, or Daniel Jones. We'll end up seeing what the Colts go with, but Colston Loveland's going to be the pick there. They did lose a lot of offensive linemen. They lost Will Fries, they lost Ryan Kelly. They lost a lot of interior offensive line. They don't really. I know Quentin Nelson was a first rounder, but I think they don't address that till the second or third round, just based off the offensive line guard talent here. Could get like a Wyatt Millum, offensive guard from West Virginia. Um, they could get a Marcus Tate, offensive guard out of Clemson, Tyler Cooper. Any one of those guys later on in the third, fourth round could be good for them. But here I have them going Holston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. All right, the Atlanta Falcons at 15. Here's where we have our first big time edge rusher. It's not Stewart, it's not Walker, it's Mykel Williams, edge out of Georgia. They need their Matthew Judon replacement, and this is where they have it. I know Jalen Walker's more of a traditional linebacker. Williams is your big time edge, is what you're gonna need, what you're gonna get. I mean Stewart, yes, but he's got a little bit of character issues. And so they could just go out get the hometown guy. Mykel Williams is what they really need. I'm trying to speed stuff up. I'm gonna do less free agency teams. Actually, I'll show what they did. I'll show them real quick, real quick. They addressed the cornerback position, get Mike Hughes, bring him back. They brought in Leonard Floyd. That shouldn't stop them from getting a big time guy. That's just a 1 year prove it deal for them from 49ers now to the Falcons. Shouldn't stop them from getting a Mykel Williams type of guy. And that's what they're going to do here. Big time edge fixes their pass rush issue and really fixes their front seven there in Atlanta. Raheem Mostert loves himself some great defensive linemen. It also justifies them not getting Dallas Turner in the last year's draft, even though Michael Penix is probably going to be their franchise quarterback, which a lot of people criticized last year. Probably will start to quiet down this season, depending on how well he plays, especially how bad Kirk Cousins played, which he could end up being on the Browns. We'll have to see. If he ends up being traded to the Browns, maybe my 3.0 mock draft changes as well. Maybe the Sanders falls and falls and falls until maybe even the Steelers pick him up. But we'll see. Next, we have the Cardinals, and I have them going offensive line. Paris Johnson deals with injuries, but he can play across from Paris Johnson, or he can play for Paris Johnson, whatever the Cardinals want to do. So I know it's another offensive lineman from the same college. I don't think that stops the Cardinals from going out and getting Josh Simmons. Two different players with different qualities, different aspects of their game. And they think they can develop a guy like Paris Johnson off the tackle from Ohio State. Why not go and get his fellow teammate in Josh Simmons? Shouldn't really be an issue there. That really fixes the pass rush. Makes sure that Kyler Murray is safe there in the pocket. That he doesn't have to just run out whenever he wants. Next we have the Cincinnati Bengals at 17, and they take best player available, right? Hendrickson is looking for a contract. They lost Hubbard. They lost Sample. So they go out and get Shamar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. They need to fix the front seven. So they go out and do it. They get the best edge rusher available in the draft. Well, not in the draft, other than Abdul Carter. And they get Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. Big time, big body there for the Bengals. He can play next to Hendrickson if he doesn't play, or if not, he can be the guy there in the front seven. Obviously, you'd want him to play across from Hendrickson, but if they can't work out a deal there, then we could see them just straight up taking Stewart. Either way, whether Hendrickson does play or not, Stewart's probably going to be the pick. Next, we have the Seahawks, and they could go receiver here. They could be going Emeka Egbuka, another receiver from Ohio State, to play across from JSN. I guess Sam Darnold, another target, along with Cooper Kupp in the slot. Egbuka could play the 2, JSN's the 1. That's a pretty good receiving core, but I don't think that's really what they're going to target here. I think they're going to get a partner for Leonard Williams. That's what I have a lot going on here. I have running mates for big-time defensive tackles in this draft. Hendrickson gets his running mate in Stewart. Leonard Williams gets his running mate in Mykel Williams. CD gets his running mate in Golden. We get that's really it so far. You could say Harold Landry gets his running mate and Carter. That's not really a great duo, though. It's kind of a bad. Well, Neighbors gets his running mate and Travis Hunter. And we'll have some more to go. I'll give more examples. And for the Seahawks, I have them going instead of Igbuka. I have them going Leonard Williams running mate. Kenneth Grant, a little bit of a reach, but he can be in this range. It's the NFL mock. It's the NFL draft. You really never know what teams target here in their range. This is their first round pick. They're going to draft the player they want to pick. And if they know that he's not going to be there in their second round pick, they're going to have to reach. Um, he knows the Mike McDonald's defense system. Obviously, the head coach was from Michigan. Kenneth Grant can get solidified in that Mike McDonald defense, play right next to Leonard Williams, and be a big part of what they're trying to build there in that Seattle defense. But next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're going to start seeing more defensive players get taken. As we have linebacker, not Jalen Walker, not yet. Jalen Walker is a little bit later, right? Let's see, where do I have him? Yeah, I have him falling just a little bit farther. But I have Jahad Campbell here. Some people might get mad saying, why do you have Jahad Campbell? The second best linebacker in the draft being taken first. I just think he screams Tampa Bay to me. Big time guy out of Alabama. I think the Buccaneers love to get guys. I don't think they really go edge rusher here. I think they want like a true linebacker that can still come off the edge, can help Diaby, but can also play back with David and White there at linebacker. Can really be the heir to Levante David, which is what they've been looking for a long time. Devin White, he can play next to be his running mate. Like, that's been the theme of this draft, running mate and offensive line being of big time value for NFL teams. Next we have the Denver Broncos. And I have the Denver Broncos going a different direction. Not Igbuka, not a receiver. Tight ends off the board here, and they did get Evan Ingram, so tight ends won't be an issue for them. I actually have them going. They lost Javonte Williams. Don't really have anyone great there at running back. I think they're going to take this guy, Amari Hampton, who boosted his stock a lot at the NFL Combine. Out of North Carolina. I know Javonte Williams was a running back out of North Carolina. These are different players, and he worked out okay for them. So I don't see why not they take the risk of going another running back out of North Carolina, especially with this guy who they can hope has more upside. Sean Payton loves a good running back. Look at Alvin Kamara. I think Amari Hampton would be the pick there for the Denver Broncos. They'll ease off Bo Nix's pressure, give them a big time running back that they can rely on, especially with that great offensive line they've been able to build there in Denver. Amari Hampton's going to be the pick there for the Denver Broncos. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers. They not address the quarterback issue, but if they do, it will probably be Aaron Rodgers. But that doesn't mean, and they have Mason Rudolph there. But that definitely doesn't mean they won't take a quarterback. And it could be in the second round. But with how valued quarterbacks are, a lot of teams like to reach for them. The Steelers they're sadly going to do here. They're going to take a quarterback, not Milrow, even though it could be Milrow. It could absolutely be Milrow here. I could be wrong. I heard that the owner, the head coach, and Arthur Smith talked with him, and it could be the pick here. I'm gonna have Jackson Dart just because he's the better overall talent, overall quarterback here. But it could be Jalen Milrow. I've heard rumors that they've talked to him. They think he can be the next guy there, and maybe he can be. I just have them going with the best quarterback. I could be wrong. Could be Milrow, or it could take a corner. They could just wait till the second round. We're gonna have to wait and see. You just never know. All right, the Chargers, they lost. They're hoping they cut Joey Bosa. They got Khalil Mack, only back for a year though. They need something at the linebacker and edge position. If you look at what they've gotten in the draft, it is not the draft, the free agency. The later it gets, my brain starts to turn off. Mekhi Becton, great contract there. 2 years, only 6.9 million guaranteed. I mean, what a contract. Dante Jackson, Bradley Bozeman address the interior of the offensive line. He stays. A lot of depth guys. They really just address the depth of their team. Relinquish Joey Bosa. He was getting up there in age. Christian Fulton, not what you need there at corner. Kuna Ford, you're not going to give him that much money. Josh Palmer, that stings. But they have Vlad McConkey now. That's what Palmer just wasn't playing with Vlad McConkey getting just that many snaps. He was their lead guy there. But they're gonna need someone there at that linebacker edge position. So they're gonna take the best one available here in Jalen Walker out of Georgia. He falls right into the Chargers' laps, and they're happy to take him. I don't know if he's really a Jim Harbaugh guy, but I think the GM would really get to him saying, "This is the best player available. We need him." And I think he can be a great player there in that defensive scheme for Jim Harbaugh. And now we have the Green Bay Packers, and this guy's been sitting on the board, waiting patiently. He could have been a number one receiver at any college. He's just so great. He played in the slot all those years. But he can be a big time target for you. And Josh Jacobs even said, "This is what we need. We need a big time receiver." And I think the Green Bay Packers front office is going to take that to heart. And they're going to take Emeka Egbuka, receiver out of Ohio State. Yeah, they could go edge here. They could go offensive line. I just think they're going to value receiver more, especially with Egbuka still on the board. I think that's where they're going to target. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and we look at what they've lost. They lost Cam Byam at the safety position, and they didn't really fix that. You have Harrison Smith, but you don't have anyone next to him, and you definitely want a hair for him. You want a running mate for him for sure. Look what they got. They fixed the trenches. They got Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, got Will Fries, and Ryan Kelly from the Colts. They both went over to the Vikings, funny enough. So they addressed the trenches. Big time gets for the Vikings. And that front seven actually looks scary for the Vikings, I will say. Relinquished, they lost Bynum. He went to the Colts. They traded Bynum for the offensive line, funny enough. Weird how free agency works. They cut Garrett Bradbury for Ryan Kelly. Let go of Sam Darnold to run with JJ McCarthy there at quarterback. Get Eric Wilson from Green Bay. Didn't really address the safety position, and that's fine because Malachi Starks is here on the board, safety out of Georgia. I'd be shocked if the Vikings were to let him pass, especially if he were to fall to the Eagles and the Eagles address safety and another Georgia player. I think that whole NFL community would be pretty upset if the Eagles get another stud out of Georgia, especially for that defense. Next we have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans did a lot. A lot of people dissed on what they did, especially with some of their trades, but I don't mind it. Kenyon Green, unproductive for the offensive line. Their offensive line obviously wasn't working for CJ Stroud, so they trade him away for CJ Gunnar Johnson to address the secondary. Fun player. I actually love his trash talking, even though he did diss Detroit for whatever reason. Didn't have to do that, but he went out of his way to do it anyway. Um, he's a fun competitor. They traded away Kenyon Green, but they did address the offensive tackle position. They have Fisher, and they did go out and get. They're gonna have Blake Fisher. They have another guy there. Where's the Houston Texans? They went out and got Cam Robinson to play left tackle. Blake Fisher can play right tackle. They do have another guy there. I'm just blanking on his name. It's really late at night. They got Trenton Brown from the Bengals. He's old, but he can be some depth there. They got Laken Tomlinson to play right guard, but they have Juice Shrugs starting at left guard. Not really what you want from a left guard. You don't want Juice Shrugs starting for you at left guard. Absolutely not. So they're going to take the best guard here and the best offensive line available, and that's Tyler Booker, offensive guard out of Alabama to fix that, really finish the offensive line. People were really confused why they traded away Laramie Tunsil for to the Commanders, but now you get a haul of picks, a second, third, and fourth for an aging left tackle who wasn't bringing in a lot of production for you, and they got in a guy like Cam Robinson to replace him on a 1 year deal. It's honestly a solid pickup. I don't mind this at all from the Houston Texans. You get three picks for a guy who is arguably just as good, talking last season, not overall, but last season as Larry Tunsil for a cheaper deal as well. Pretty good from the Houston Texans front office. I don't mind it at all. Next, we have the LA Rams, and they made a lot of moves. They addressed that front seven, and some of these teams, I know I'm going to show what they did. They adjusted. They got Devontae Adams, big time get. Cut Cooper Kupp because Puka Nacua pretty much plays the same role. He's younger, better at this point than Cooper Kupp. Devontae Adams, big time get for Matthew Stafford. Never really thought, as a Lions fan, a few years ago that Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford would be on the same team, but here we are. Puna Ford to replace Bobby Brown. Kind of a lot of money. 15 million for 3 years, though I guess is not awful. You see what they relinquished. Yeah, not that much. Michael, how he was kind of a depth guy. He goes to the Bills. They can really develop linebacker though. So let's see what he does over there. Um, Pretty good moves for the Rams overall. Solid. But I have them going. If he's still on the board, I don't like Tutu Atwell at the number two there. Devontae Adams going to play the one. Nakua at the three. You're going to need a two. They have Tutu Atwell. But if this guy's still on the board, who's fallen a lot, I think they're going to go out and get Luther Burden the third. In some mock drafts, I feel like in my first, I had him going really high. I think I had him going to the Saints at 9, maybe. Which, I mean, I guess it's still a possibility. They needed a receiver next to Chris Olave. I guess Matthew Golden could go there, and maybe we'll see what happens. I feel like they'll address receiver in the second round, though, with guys like Trey Harris, Jane Higgs, Xavier Strepo. Well, not a stacked receiver class, to be honest, but some okay guys. Luther Burden goes there to the LA Rams, though, at 26. At 27, the Ravens, they lost a lot, especially in that offensive line area. We look at what they've lost. Baltimore is up. Okay, I don't know. We looked at, they didn't really fix that at all. Not, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, okay get. They got Ben Cleveland, brought him back for 1 year deal. Okay, they lost Josh Jones, though, rotational tackle. And of course, they lost Makari. That's a big time loss there at the guard slash center position. They have Lindstrom there at center. Now they need a guard who could also get a tackle there as well, though. They're going to take the best guy available. This guy's listed as a tackle. It says guard here. I mean, versatility on the offensive line is huge. They're going to take Gray Zabel. He could probably play guard for the Ravens. Or tackle. He'll probably play guard in the NFL, though. He might need time to develop, obviously, out of North Dakota State. But like I said, offensive line is a theme in this mock draft of mine. If you have a guy there, doesn't mean you won't take a position, especially if you think you can develop him and you can think he can be very good for you. So I have Gray Zabel there going to the Baltimore Ravens. Next, we have the Detroit Lions, and people are going to be mad at what I have them going here, especially hardcore Detroit Lions fans, because they think they want a guy like James Pierce Jr., the best player available. We've done it with Brian Branch before, but he's got character issues. He doesn't really scream Detroit Lion. People think it could be Nick Scorton, Kylie Williams, Donovan Ilsrorky, or Mike Green. Well, I have him going farther. A guy, according to PFN, who's really far down the board. They did talk to Josiah Stewart. Could be the pick there, but where is he? Where is he? Did he fly up? No, where is he? Jeez, he is far down the board, and that's Jack Sawyer. Like a month ago, people were saying he could be In my first mock draft, I had it, and more mock drafts came out saying Jack Sawyer could be the pick there for the Detroit Lions, and he just kind of fell for no reason. But his range is still high first round to late second round. Player for Jack Sawyer. Think this screams Detroit Lion. I love his competitiveness, love his grit. Obviously, some people say that's not best player available. Why would you take Jack Sawyer over a guy like Mike Green? Mike Green just doesn't come from a power conference, and he's got the great traits, but I feel like Jack Sawyer is a better fit next to Aiden Hutchinson. And this easily could be a trade down pick for the Lions, but I feel like they'd go with edge Jack Sawyer. Next, we have the Washington Commanders, and they're going to take edge too. They're going to take a higher rated one, and that's Donovan Izuraku. And you might be looking according to PFN and be like, why do you have him going over Nick Scorton or James Pierce? That's just according to PFN. I mean, you have other NFL mock drafts, and Donovan Izuraku is going to be higher. Just opinion, really, scouting wise, who you think is more value. In this case, I think the Commanders would go somewhat local, not really local, but more local kid. And Donovan Izuraku, they didn't really address edge for them. They addressed the trenches, but if you look at what they've done in free agency, Washington Commanders. Oh, it didn't click them. I love that. Washington Commanders. Here we go. They got Javon Kinlaw in the trenches. Dietrich Wise, that's not really what you want from a starting defensive end. Eddie Goldman. They got the trenches. Javon Kinlaw's kind of a big contract to replace Jonathan Allen. But they should be fine there. They still have Duron Payne. So I shouldn't be worried if you're a Commanders fan. They made some big moves. They got Noah Brown to replace De'Ami Brown, funny enough. They got Will Harris to replace Jeremy Chin. Cheap deal for him. Could be solid. Got Marcus Mariota back to be your backup quarterback. Just a lot of depth there for the Commanders. They're pretty much rerunning it back. And they're going to get some guys in the draft, like what they did here with Donovan Izuraku. Next, we have number 30, the Buffalo Bills. We look what the Buffalo Bills have done. They got Joey Bosa. They addressed the edge. But they haven't really addressed the interior defensive line. And you need a running mate, another theme of this draft, for Ed Oliver. They got, Michael Hoot, offensive linebacker, Larry Joby, played defensive end. Not really what you wanted starting defensive end, though. That's why you got Joey Bosa, though. Didn't really address the interior defensive line. Especially, yeah. So, lose Matt Collins, but you get Josh Palmer. Love that contract for them, by the way. Only 15 guaranteed for 3 years to play with Keon Coleman. It's going to be your number one. Josh Palmer can play in the slot. Love that for them. And yeah, I have the Bills actually going with interior defensive line here. Derek Harmon falls a little bit here, according to PFN. I think I still didn't have the Commanders pick. I'm losing my mind. It is 1:15 in the morning. Wow, I've been doing this for too long. All right, let's end this. Get Donovan here. The Bills defensive tackle Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon, is the pick there. Big time guy out of Oregon. He kind of falls here. Probably shouldn't, but he's just a big time body to fit next to Ed Oliver to stuff the run game there for that Buffalo defense, which is honestly why they lose games. You look at that Ravens game and Derrick Henry ran all over them. You look at the Chiefs and you look at the Chiefs and it wasn't really the run game what killed them, but it definitely did help. So you have Derek Harmon be the pick there for the Buffalo Bills. And the Chiefs, they're going to follow suit. They're going to get a running mate for Chris Jones. But that's going to be Walter Noel, a defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. They hopefully think he can be better than Derek Coleman coming out of the SEC, who they stop a lot of good running backs there in the SEC. We look at what the Chiefs have done in free agency, and they spent they had some questionable contracts there. That is for sure in Kansas City. I can't find Kansas City, but there they are. All right, Jalen Moore, that's a lot. Charles Omenihu, that's a lot, to be honest. Chris, 7 million is okay. Kareem Hunt, it's just okay. Elijah Mitchell is a good contract for Elijah Mitchell. 2.5 million could be some competition for Pacheco. Hopefully, get him going. Put some pressure on him. Lose Justin Reed. He goes to the Saints. It's okay. That probably stings. That's probably their biggest loss though. But they did lose Wharton, so they need to replace him, and they go out and get a guy like Walter Nolan. And now the Eagles, they traded away C.J. Gardner Johnson. They had Reed Blankenship, but they don't really have anyone next to him, so they go out and get the best safety available in Nick Emmanwori. I've seen him go higher, and he ends up falling to the Eagles here, which is just what they need. And just like that, that is my NFL mock draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How did I do? And this is what I got. Let me know what you guys think of this. And this is my 2.0 NFL mock draft. I'll see you guys in the 3.0.